Topiks, Bankie and Yahsonn. Real conversation. Lately we be having conversations with people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations with the people, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, few got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Tuesday night and everybody tuned in live. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing reasoning every time. Talking politics and the things affecting lives. Breaking down the stories they be trying to hide. Used to trust the system, now the trust gone. Everybody talking loud, but the facts wrong. People tired of the fake and the gimmicks too, so they coming to these topics for a clear review. Got the whole Caribbean locked on the station. Real entertainment network building conversation. No script vibes, now stage for the camera. Just real people talking straight with stamina. Yeah, we be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations with the people, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, you got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Sometimes Fridays got a special live session. Big topics got the whole place stressing. Agriculture, crime, economy discussion. Every episode spark another conversation, and the comments start flying when the lights start. Everybody got a view from the heart. Some agree and some disagree too, but at least these topics bringing real views. No pretending when the mic turn on. Yahsonn reasoning while Bankie stay strong. People checking in from overseas too, cause authentic conversation hard to come through.
Greetings, welcome to another edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. It's another beautiful Tuesday evening here in Oli, the indigenous name for the island known as Nevis, and Layamiga, the indigenous name for the island known as St. Kitts. I also want to say good evening to our brothers and sisters throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean, and morning, afternoon, or evening. Some one of those greetings may be applicable to you depending on where you may be geographically on the space at this time. Yes, it's another beautiful Tuesday, and we want to say a very special good evening also to all of our folks who usually tune into us, whether it's via YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch TV, as we stream simultaneously across the three platforms. We want to take some time to encourage you, all of you who are logging in at this point, to take a few seconds. And if you're not on the YouTube platform, go on over to the YouTube platform, subscribe, click on the notification bell, like, share. That little effort goes a long way in terms of helping us to, gain some momentum on the YouTube platform. We want to encourage you as well for this evening, as usual, to continue to make your comments, and we would, as much as possible, try to read as many. And if you have any questions, to be able to have your questions being aired. We are eventually going to open up the lines as well, and so we would want you to feel free to make use of the number when we open up the lines. I note that sometimes some folks wait until the latter part or the last minute to get in, and then sometimes some get a little offended if we have to end the call a bit early. So we want to encourage you to keep listening and listen for when we open up the lines, and so that you can formulate your questions and your ideas and so on, put them together, and so you're prepared when you get on the call to be able to just express yourself. We encourage you to be as forceful as possible and as passionate as possible, but we would want you to respect our guests and to respect the platform, and keep it within that realm. As long as it is that way, we definitely would not have a problem. This evening, we have our usual co-host, Shabazz Bankie King, and with us this evening, our special guest, Mr. Glendale Herbert, and we look forward to a very, very engaging discussion this evening surrounding African economics, Afro consciousness, Pan Africanism, uh, Nevis, the way forward for Nevis, ideas for economic solutions for Nevis. So, a number of these topics are some of the areas that we're going to be looking to touch on this evening in our engagement. And so, we want you to get your popcorn, get your glass of wine, or my Rasta brethren and sisters, get your spliff and your nice cup of bush tea, and let's get ready for a very interesting session of the topics here on Real Entertainment Network. Bankie, greetings, welcome to this evening's edition of the topics.
Yahsonn, greetings and greetings to our guest, Glenn, and also greetings to the folks listening here in Oli and Layamiga, which is the indigenous name for St. Kitts and Nevis. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in on another Tuesday evening of the Topics on Real Entertainment Network. You guys could have chosen any other media house, but you choose to spend your time with us, and for that, we're greatly appreciative. For that, we take you guys for granted, and also we appreciate those who intend to call in or send in their message and stuff like that, because it just show that it's a community show. We expect you all to call in and have you all say and stuff like that. So Yahsonn, it's been some time of the hurricane season, beginning of June, and since the normal time with the Sahara just keep coming down, is last couple of weeks, I guess I've been thinking of when we're growing up, if we used to have this coming down and all this stuff, I didn't realize is something strange happening with all this harp and all this different stuff, because I can't remember these things. It's just like, it's like when you're adult now, how kind of strange stuff are happening, you know, but as you're growing up, these things never used to be happening. So is this make any sense? So I put to the question a lot of stuff within the system and how, if a lot of things make sense, and to pay a lot of attention so that these planes in the air with all these chemtrails, and wonder if only me seeing these things are, well, how come some of these planes in the past these jetting out, but no, you're seeing someone, if this is conspiracy as, so I've seen all these things, I can tell you exactly when they're going to come around each month and which direction they're going to come, and I don't have it down to a T. These vehicles, these chemtrails plane, I have it down to a T. I pay a lot of attention to things, looking up in the daytime and in the nighttime also, because you tend to see a lot of stuff. This area here in Nevis, where we in Nevis, is a lot of air traffic pass over us, non-stop, or every day, all day, nighttime. You blow your mind the amount of air traffic passing over us in the nighttime. And I've realized that we have a lot of air traffic passing over this area throughout the Caribbean. So,
hey, Bankie,
in the agricultural sector, I just want to tell those, the crop farmers, I know some of them want to ease off on the farming because of the extreme heat, and for the animals, make sure the animals that you have tied out, they have water access to them and stuff like that. They're those, if you can keep them cool in a cool area and a cut and carry the feed, that would be even easier, and the animals at the same time. And those in poultry, make sure they stay cool, otherwise if it starts stress, then you don't get low production and stuff like that when with the eggs and all this different stuff. So these kind of, whether I haven't here the agricultural sector bring out any bulletin and any tips and so forth when it comes to this kind of extreme heat, and how about they can call this, how does still carry pest and disease that can affect crops and all this different stuff, and sinuses to adults and all this different stuff. So it's a lot can affect the water quality and all the different stuff, and air quality. So these are things should really be in the media when it comes to health wise. Can people who are asthmatic can affect them, and not and sinuses, but we tend not to hear a lot of these information putting out there, especially in these times, and it's just going to continue to get worse as it continue. But let me say, I mean, for the last day or two, I've been getting a lot of calls, a lot of complaints from the Nevlec community when it comes to the high cost of electricity and stuff like that. But the topic is more or less always appropriate, because we as an ancient people at the same time is still imposing things upon our own people and making excuses and not bringing clarity when it comes to East time, what is why happening over in the back of the wall our people who we put in elector in the parliament position, an elective position, is there to represent the people. So information clear when something like this, when they're going to increase the fuel surcharge and pass it back on to the community and stuff like that. Whatever the reason is, there should be collaboration and talks and let the people know in advance. These are some of the plans because of what's happening over the world and whatever, and what the plan, what the government will do to harness some of these stress of the people. But when these things are not done, and then you realize the people start to be frustrated, and then never no need to have to feel the continuity in the area that people, because the people just have to vent because they don't know where to turn, because the leader of the country is not who you put there to. Because remember, we are one of the first nations where the trial was working on. We was the experimental place for the rest of the Caribbean. And we tend to look at Haiti and Jamaica because they are bigger, but no, we were the mother colony for Britain. We everything started, the experiment started here, come to sugar, and so we go then where we here, the Queen of the Caribbean. And it is sad that our people, and Malcolm X said this, the new enslavers is the educated Negro, but no, not education is key, but those it was by choice and join other systems to enslave their own people. So me not just use, but I understand we come when you say educated. Some people think, but it is sad because that is not true education by going to. Cause all people been always educated, always been civilized from since beginning of time. We not jump out in a cave and all this nonsense that they want to put into your head and stuff like that. Up to at present we're here speaking, there are people here on the island studying us, listening to this show, trying to figure out who we are as a people, how we survive this thing, how we always so resilient and don't give up. But yet we are nice. We are very nice. That's what welcome to anyone. Why navies? Why choosing the people? We are different, and they knows that we are welcoming. We don't beg. A lot of countries, the people they beg, they ask for things. We are not like that. And people love that comfort and the docileness about us, and they can manipulate us easily. But everyone on the island is not like people gotta realize that too, because we can see through people, because we can see through the fakeness, because we as ancient people deal with vibration. We are different. Some of them don't afraid themselves, they're going to tap into them true self to find out who they really are. So, Mr. Herbert, my first question will come to you. I mean, when the time come, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you being a part of the show, and we're definitely looking for the reason when it come to who we are as a people when it comes to ancient African history. Yahsonn?
Yeah, Bankie, it's really a pleasure having Mr. Herbert on the platform with us, and it is interesting that we are having this discussion and this evening as well, because this evening, happens to speak to a very prominent day, so to speak, within Rastafari. Today would have recognized the 128th Earth Strong of Leonard Percival Howell if he would have been alive today. He was born on June 16th, 1898 in Clarendon, Jamaica. And, I wish for this evening to be able to share a little bit of information and get into a little bit of his story. And I think he should be recognized not just in Jamaican history, but I think he should be recognized in regional history, and I dare say even global history, for the contributions that he would have made, and the sort of manifestation of Marcus Garvey's vision of self-sustenance that he would have created in demonstrating by the 500 acres of land that he would have bought in Jamaica and put into service for the brothers and sisters who were part of his community. And so a bit of that we would want to share a little bit later on, but I would want to give the guest an opportunity to introduce himself to the platform. This evening we have with us Mr. Glendale Herbert. And Glendale Herbert is known as a historian, cultural thinker, researcher, Pan-Africanist. He's associated with the global Pan-African movement and many different Pan-African initiatives, active in Al-Qaeda African consciousness movements. Many might not know much of that on St. Kitts and Nevis, but I guess this would be a platform where they would learn a bit more about that. This evening, we'll get some discussions on ancient Africa and topics such as what we were never taught, and some of these discussions. So we look forward to that level of engagement, and I will give you the floor now, Mr. Herbert, to introduce yourself and to add anything to what we would have mentioned in our introductory statements in regards to you. So good evening, welcome to the platform, and you have the mic to give your opening statements.
Good evening, brothers. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And it's a pleasure to be on this platform. This platform has grown tremendously. The reach has gone, beyond, I'm sure, the imagination of those who started it. And it has continued to grow, and it will grow beyond this, because the information, the folks that you've had on your platform are quite interesting people, and they're bringing value to the platform. Now, I want to start on the onset of this entire discussion. I would wager a position, I'll put a position forward. And the position is this: 95% of Nivijans and Kittitians, and beyond, within the entire Caribbean, history starts at 1492. Begins at 1492, and nothing took place before 1492. And we grow up, we get old, we die with all that we've ever known. It's everything that took place with Columbus, Ferdinand, and Pinter, Santa Maria, and the Nina. And the discoveries of the Europeans, and everything come forward until 2026. But surprise, surprise, the world has been around for billions of years. And anthropologists, paleontologists, and archaeologists has all come to the conclusion that life form began in Africa. Not only that it began in Africa, civilization began in Africa. And I go back, man has been, as Homo sapiens, been on Earth some 90,000 years now. And as people, as we know ourselves as we are now, in a form in which we have developed into, that goes back some 10,000 years or more. Goes back over 20,000 years. So the oldest people on the face of the earth are known right now, are known as Sans, the Sans people of South Africa. The DNA goes back the furthest on the face of the earth, and Africa, as we know, has the widest DNA on the face of the earth. A variety. And like I said, up until 10,000 years ago, the earth was only inhabited by melanated people. When I say melanated people, people of color. And those people of color inhabited what is called the African Rift Valley. The Rift Valley of Africa is a portion of Africa that starts somewhere north, all the way north, past Ethiopia, a little bit on Ethiopia, maybe Yemen coming down, and all the way down to Mozambique on the east coast of Africa and west as far as Botswana. And the African Rift Valley hosts what's called the Ngoro crater. The Ngoro crater is the richest lands on the face of the earth. You can drop a seed, it grows. It has the most variety of life there is on the face of the earth, and that's based in Tanzania area. The Ngoro crater. It's on the Rift Valley, like I mentioned. Life form began there in that area. It's Botswana, northeast Botswana is known. They don't tell you these things, but it's suggested and it's known as the Garden of Eden. And that's where most minerals and most diamonds is in the Rift Valley of Africa, the lands of the Rift Valley. You can start all the way Botswana. You're going to go east, Tanzania, which you have Tanzanite, which is the most expensive piece of mineral that can be found, which is called Tanzanite, all the way through the Rift Valley, all the way up. And so that is the history. The first fossil found is Lucy, 3.5 million years ago in Ethiopia, in the hills of Ethiopia. And that Lucy has been preserved and in the museums of Ethiopia. Now, I say all this to say our history began for the most part and how we've been taught at 1492. And none of us has been curious. Most of us has not been curious enough to know more. So we've been dominated for the most part and made to feel less than, and our spirit has been broken as a people because we've been taught that and that we've been fed all this nonsense. And so what happens here, like I said, up until 10,000 years ago, that is when the African people began to migrate across. They were more populated in the Central and the Rift Valley in Africa more than the West Africa. But they began to migrate across, people began to migrate throughout, and even north. And so that's how the world began to be populated. That is what the archaeologists and the anthropologists says, people like Leakey, Dr. Leakey, who is the most renowned anthropologist on the face of the earth. His entire family, the anthropologists, is going back for over 100 years. And they've settled on this idea. These are Caucasian people, but they're finally settled on that fact. Now, I come as far as 10,000 years, and what you notice, what happens on the same African Rift Valley is the Nile, which is the longest river on the face of the earth. It's 5,000 miles long. It goes as far down as Mozambique, all the way north to Egypt. And the Nile, that's the White Nile, and the Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia, the hills of Ethiopia, and they both join in Khartoum, Sudan. And that's the people live along the Nile. The Nile feeds the falls there in Botswana, famous falls in Botswana, and all the other falls throughout Africa. So people lived along the Nile, and that's where they settled, because that's where you can grow a lot of things, and life forms. Communities was developed along the Nile, all the way up to Egypt, and where the Nile deposited into the ocean. So here it is now, guys. So the oldest civilization that we know of on Earth in terms of mankind, meaning in terms of cultivating communities, was the community. Well, we can go back to the pyramids of the Egyptian Empire, Kemet. It's called Kemet, where you have, of course, Luxor. You have the temple, the tombs of the kings in Luxor, Aswan, and up north you'll find the pyramids, the pyramids of Giza. These go back the Kemet Empire, the Kemet Kingdom rather, goes back 5,000 years. So we've been living, say the year 0 to 2027 and 3,000 years prior to that. In that kingdom, which is the Kemet Kingdom, which are all the great pyramids of Giza and all the great artifacts that you see all over Egypt. In that kingdom, they had 170 pharaohs. Just imagine, it's 170 pharaohs. Just even each one of them lived for 50 years. That's over 1,000 something years they ruled. If you run the numbers, over 170 pharaohs to build out Egypt and Kemet. So there was the Kemet, but the thing is, I want people to understand, when you say Egypt, it's not with the borders that they have now. And they say, this is Egypt, or they say, this is Libya, or say, this is Chad or Ethiopia. It wasn't like that. That phenomenon, when you see borders and lines drawn and countries named, is a new phenomenon that happened 150 years ago. That 150 years ago, that took place at the Berlin Conference in 1884 when they cut up the entire Africa and shared it among the Europeans. So you didn't have borders between Egypt and Sudan. I just want to take that out of the folks' mind. You didn't have borders between Ethiopia and Egypt. It was just land and kingdoms. You understand? So we have that's why I say, well, history goes back 1492, and a lot of us don't step back and say, okay, let me just really look at what took place. You know? So we didn't have Botswana. We didn't have none of these countries, South Africa. It was just land and kingdoms carved out. Right? So what you call Egypt today was not Egypt. It was Kemet Kingdom. And Kemet was a part of Ethiopia today. What we call Ethiopia was Western Ethiopia was part of Libya, was part of Chad, all the way down the whole of and Sudan. Not parts of Sudan. You know, it was a massive kingdom. And that kingdom lasts for a couple thousand years, well, because it was 5,000 years ago that it began. That kingdom was pretty much conquered by the Kushites, which is south, which is called Sudan today, right? You may see the pyramids of Giza, but in Kush, the Kush kingdom has over 212 pyramids. Egypt don't have as many pyramids featuring as what there are in Sudan. People don't know these things, right? And you see all this, the Kushites was very good in terms of arrows, bow and arrows, and riding horses or whatever it is, and bow and arrows. They were excellent archers. And that's how they were feared as archers in war. And they took over the entire Kemet kingdom eventually. And they ruled that entire area, you know, for maybe over 1,200 years, right? And these are the Nubians, right? So the Nubians, you know, they all lived along the Niles and all this. So, and then there were one other ancient kingdom that came along that conquered the Kushite kingdom, the Kush kingdom, which was pretty much Sudan. There was the Aksum kingdom that rose up. And that kingdom was run by the Queen of Sheba. That's northern Ethiopia, where part of Eritrea is today. Right, which was carved out as a country in 1992 or something like that, right? With a settlement with the Italians. But the Aksum kingdom was ruled by the Queen of Sheba and of course Solomon, which is 3,000 years ago, which would have been a 1,900 years BC, right? When Solomon walked the earth. So what I'm trying to say. So all of those kingdoms was vanquished by the Aksum kingdom eventually, right? In the year 3,000 years ago. While Sheba ruled, she had a son, of course, is Solomon. And I want to say something also. The lands, what we call Jerusalem, Israel, Jordan, Oman, Yemen, Middle East, that's only a phenomenon that took place in 1867, 150 years ago. There was no ever Middle East. It never existed. You understand? Because it's only when they built the Suez Canal in 1867, 1869, the French built the Suez Canal for trade, to bus so they can go from east to west, right across the Mediterranean. At that particular point, the invention of the word Middle East came. Because Egypt, they bust the Suez Canal across Egypt. But Egypt, Jerusalem, all them was one. It's one country, Africa. But people don't know these things. They don't know. You know what I'm saying? These are all inventions. So it's like, for example, yeah.
You know, Mr. Herbert, as I listen to you, right, I am thinking to myself, because a lot of these things, I mean, I see Bankie at some point here putting up some of the books and so that he has in his collection that speaks to some of the information that you're sharing and so on, right? So to Bankie and myself, a lot of this is not necessarily new information. And I'm not trying to interject here in any way to try to stop you from presenting what you're presenting. I'm just hopeful, though, that you could slow it down a little bit, because, you know, like as they would say, for a lot of people, this would be the milk, because they definitely would not have heard, you know, information like this. I mean, this couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with a a lady who is supposed to be, well, she identified herself um, Jewish, Jewish, right? And in speaking with her, I began to ask her some questions in relation to um, Israel, and
So did you tell the lady you're
I,
a Jew?
but I
You're the
didn't
true
get into
Jew?
all of that yet. I
But you
didn't
could have
even
tell her
get
that
into all
right
that.
away.
No, hold on. You know, like I said, sometimes you need to really give these people baby food, because in speaking, imagine this person would have never heard that initially that Israel was a man and was never a piece of land. And I'm saying this
Jacob.
because you would have
That was Jacob.
you would have went you would have went to the extreme just a while ago to talk about how um what you call it, how they carve out that space that's called Middle East, and how the quote unquote Ashkenazi Jews who would have been given that piece of land. Because I was trying to explain to the lady as well that the land that they're now quote unquote fighting for, so to speak, originally that was not necessarily the land that was offered to them. They were actually even offered a piece of land somewhere in Africa, and then that
Uganda.
land was
Uganda.
decided upon, right?
Uganda.
But I said that to say though, I said this to point out that part of the struggles that we have as a people is the selective history, as you pointed out. That, for example, a lot of our history stems from just 1492 going forward. A lot of people don't know anything from prior to that. A lot of people don't know that, back when Spain was under the Moors' rule. A lot of people don't know, years before when Mansa Musa used to be traveling and going to all of these different territories, and just giving gold and walking with all of these millions and billions of dollars and so on. Well, not dollars, but gold in gold value, right? So it's a lot sometimes to swallow when you present information like this. So I was just saying, you know, help to give them some baby steps. Um,
You see, Yahsonn, one of the
uh-huh.
things that we have to realize, you go to some of the largest hotel from the US to France to Britain and them different places, going to these museums, these people are holding on from things of our culture. And even the same thing with navies, our history is in England, holding on upon it. Because it's one thing they're not gonna do, let go. Because they know our strength, and for not to let go, to keep you suppressed is not to see you come together. Cause for we coming together is a takeover. So divide and rule, keep us arrogant, keep us entertained. We
Well,
definitely we do not want to know who we really are. We love to be looked after. We don't want to. We don't even want to trust our own coat down here. We want to go to the white man. We always love. If it's one thing with us, we love the white man, And put it blank. We love the white man psychologically. 'Cause we always think everything. Well, not a lot of us. I would not. I can't. A lot of us are like that because somehow we're so friendly, and this friendliness where someone come around, they start to offer you drinks and this and that. I'll come up with a t-shirt for you, and with that you're last, and all of a sudden no. Oh, yes, oh yeah, yes, and this and that, and we just start giving all kind of information on each other and stuff like that, knowing who these people are or whatever. We just something is wrong with us. Definitely
Banky,
wrong with us.
you made a point there a while ago, which was alluded to by our guest, Mr. Herbert, and I think that sometimes when we have these discussions, we sometimes tend to overlook the efforts that has and still is being made to keep us ignorant, to brainwash us, to indoctrinate us in as many ways as possible. Because as I started by speaking about Leonard Howell, and I think maybe now might be a good point to interject some of what he would have done and the contributions that he would have made, and so people could get an understanding of what it means when you begin to speak up and speak out and not adhere to the teachings that were promulgated then, and the kind of efforts that were made to make you look crazy and lock you up and all of these things. So you would have had this man known as Leonard Howell, who many know him as the pioneer of Rastafari. Few understand that he was also an economic organizer, agricultural visionary, community builder, and advocate for black self-determination decades before those ideas became mainstream. What Howell stood for? At a time when these ideas were considered dangerous, Howell taught black pride and African consciousness, or Alkebulan consciousness, the divinity and sovereignty of Emperor Haile Selassie I, economic independence from colonial systems, land ownership and self-sufficiency, repatriation and connection to Africa, liberation from mental slavery and colonial domination, the dignity and worth of African people worldwide. Many of these ideas led to repeated arrests and persecution. Howell was charged with sedition, imprisoned multiple times, and reportedly arrested dozens of times because colonial authorities viewed his teachings as a threat to the social order. You hear why he was arrested? You hear why he was deemed to be a madman and charged with sedition and imprisoned? Pinnacle, Howell's greatest achievement. Perhaps Howell's most important contribution was the creation of the Pinnacle community in St. Catherine, Jamaica. Around 1940, Howell established Pinnacle on approximately 400 acres of land. He actually bought 500 acres. It became the first major Rastafari settlement and one of the Caribbean's most significant experiments in black economic self-reliance. What made Pinnacle revolutionary? Pinnacle was a farming community. It was a manufacturing center. It was a cooperative economic system, a training ground for self-reliance, a community largely independent of colonial institutions. Visitors reported that agricultural production, craft industries, bakeries, commercial enterprises, distribution networks extended into Kingston. Today, people talk about circular economies, community owned enterprises, sustainable agriculture, cooperative development. Howell was attempting all of these over 80 years ago, and they deemed him crazy. The colonial establishment saw Pinnacle as more than a religious settlement. It represented economic independence, political independence, African consciousness, resistance to colonial authority. Officials reportedly described it as a communist experiment and repeatedly raided the community. Howell and his followers were harassed, arrested, and monitored. In 1954, government forces conducted a major operation that effectively destroyed Pinnacle. A final clearing operation followed in 1958. The land question. The Pinnacle land remains one of the most controversial issues in Rastafari history. There are differing interpretations regarding ownership and legal title. Some historical accounts argue that the land was purchased through the Ethiopian Salvation Society and later became entangled in legal and financial disputes. The Rastafari group maintained that Pinnacle was unjustly taken from the movement and that descendants and their wider Rastafari community deserve restoration of a meaningful portion of the property. What is undisputed is that Pinnacle is regarded by many Rastafari as the spiritual birthplace of the movement. Parts of the property became the subject of development disputes. The Jamaican government eventually committed to acquiring portions of the land and preserving sections as a heritage site. Howell's descendants and supporters have continued advocating for greater recognition and protection of the site. Many Rastafari see the struggle as symbolic of a larger issue, the historical disposition of black communities and the failure to proper honor those who built independent institutions. And I mean, these are just some of the issues that we still have to deal with. And I just wanted to point out some of these things in relation to putting yourself back into that time and space, purchase lands, telling the people, hey, look, you see King Charles, who probably was king at the time, Queen Elizabeth, them the ain we king and them the ain we queen. We look into His Imperial Majesty, Emperor of Ethiopia, the country that has never been colonized, never been conquered, and that's what we're looking at. And we are going to do our own thing. We're going to set up our own systems. We're going to have our own carpenters. We're going to have our own mechanics. We're going to have our own plumbers. We're going to have our own contractors. We're going to have our own farmers, our own value-added product developers, and we're going to create our own society, and we don't have to depend on them. And they were successful. They were successful, but they were becoming a threat to society. Whenever you stand up in the society and they realize that you can be of some level of influence and opening up the consciousness of the masses to see the folly that they have opted to continue to perpetuate, because this is what is happening amongst us. These people who we elect to represent us, who came from among us, continue to represent a system that vehemently fought against us and was never designed for us. And these are some of the things that, unless we have this level of discourse and this level of this conversations, that some of these things are going to continue. So we are really grateful to have our guests here this evening to be able to expound a bit more on these things. So I'm not going to get too much further into some of these things, but I just wanted to bring it to the table to kind of, I think it adds to some of what we are speaking about in relation to why, to some extent, we don't know much about these things. And it's because some of these people, like we were saying, who continue to maintain the system that oppose that kind of consciousness. Because, you know, if you get that conscious, then you ain't going to study with the system. And so the system would not be effective. So, your thought on that, my brethren, as we continue?
Yeah, just to sort of piggyback off of what you just said, you know, as it relates to Rastaman. Ethiopia, you know, the foundation of Rasta. Let me just go back a little. I did talk about Solomon. I did talk about the Queen of Sheba living in Ethiopia, and how all that part, all the entire area, what you call Jordan, Yemen, Oman, and all that is part is Africa until 1867, when they split the bus and created the Suez Canal so you can go through across Egypt. All of that was connected as one. And north of what Ethiopia today is called a Daklak Islands, 120 islands. That's right on the northern coast of Ethiopia. They connect right into Yemen. It's like going from Sengis to Nevis, a little further. You see, so you just put things in perspective so people can understand the closeness. When you say Solomon, you know, was here and the Queen of Sheba in the Aksum Empire. You see, it's easy to traverse, and they were living amongst each other right there in the northern coast, which is called Eritrea today. So fast forward into Ethiopia, the son that they got, the son of Solomon and Sheba, his name was Menelik. And Menelik,
Hold on.
Menelik the
1
first.
second. 1 second. 'Cause I think this also has been misinterpreted along the way. Sheba was the name of a place. Makeda would have been her name. So people still say Queen Sheba, but she was the queen of Sheba.
Yes, of Sheba.
Just wanted to know that.
Makeda was the queen of Sheba. You are absolutely correct. Now, put this back in perspective so people understand. In the contemporary time then, there was a lady by the name of Gadet. Gadet, she's Jewish. And the Jewish faith goes back 4,000 years, much further back than Christianity. And Gadet is the one who was responsible for conquering the Yahsonn Empire and breaking the back of the Yahsonn Empire. She lived the revolt against the Yahsonn. Ma'am, you got to understand all of what you see happening in the Bible happening in Africa. Everything is all Africans. Because the lands where they happen, the territory, whether it's Moses on the Nile or whatever, it's all Africa. Whether it's Daniel in the lions, then lions are only synonymous with Africa. You understand? So all of it happens in Africa. But somehow we flip that in our minds. And somehow it's Europe, somehow. I don't understand. You understand? Europe take precedence, or Europeans. It happened in Africa. So you need to understand, people need to understand beyond 1492. So Sheba in the year 900 BC, which is 3,000 years ago, right? And they had a son by Menelik. We call it by the name of Menelik. Menelik is the one who is responsible, who took what's called the Ark of the Covenant with the 10 Commandments back to Ethiopia. Menelik, we know who Menelik the second was, and we know who the line of Menelik and Solomon is, go down to Selassie. Menelik II is the one who fought the war against the Italians and conquered them by just using lions and bees and everything else and beat back the Italians in 1890s. And Selassie came again after he was pretty much out of the country, came back to the country. Selassie came in 1930, whatever it was, 34, 35, right? And beat back the Italians again and led the war against the Italians. So Ethiopia was never conquered. Never once, right, by no European powers. There are only 2 countries in Africa that was never conquered. One was created and one was never conquered. The one was created was Liberia.
Liberia, yes.
It was created by between the Europeans and the Americans. The repatriation of Africans and slaves. That was the purpose of that, right? So it's very important to get the history right. So now Ethiopia being the bastion of the center of religion. Remember, Judaism was there. So a lot of Ethiopian are Jews. And then at the same time, you had the Christian faith, the Orthodox Church started because they followed. And what they incorporated into the Orthodox Church is a lot of Jewish customs, right? The original Orthodox. And the Jewish customs from circumcision to having their faith worship on Saturdays, on and on. They incorporate that into the original church, which is the Orthodox Church, not the Roman Catholic. The original Christians are the Orthodox Christians. And the Coptic, which was more in Egypt. They're both sisters, brother-sister church.
Yes.
Now, historically. So here comes the Roman Catholic Church, comes along years after, when Constantine Chernobyl was leading Rome. Right? And his mother began and created the church, which is now the Roman Catholic Church. Right? That's just the facts. So there's a big chasm between the Orthodox Church and the Roman Church. And that chasm is centered around what they believe in terms of how, I just said to you, they absorbed a lot of the Jewish customs in the Orthodox Church. And in addition to that, whereas the Roman Catholic Christian Church does not. The Roman Catholic Christian Church spread it to the Holy Trinity. They do not do that. The Orthodox Church. And you will notice a lot of the Eastern powers in the world, like Russia and all that, 90% of the people in those countries are Orthodox. And that is why they would have all the relics of Jesus, the black Jesus and the black disciples and all of those things in Russian vaults. And that is why you would never hear a Russian conquer a black nation. They respect the history and they respect the teachings. They look up to the leaders of the Orthodox Church, which is in Ethiopia. Fascinating. If you live in the West, you would never know these things because the media of the West would never tell you these things. Russia is bad. Everything is bad. And not that Russia is great either. But the point I'm making is in terms of religion versus, and we're occupied down here with a lot of Catholic and the offshoot of the Catholic religion, which like Baptists and all that sort of thing, and you know, and the English Church, the Church of England, with the Anglicans and all that sort of thing. But going back to Ethiopia now, the first set of dreads, I don't know if you know the Hermites. The Hermites are dreads, meaning dreadlocks. Locks, historically. And that is where that concept came from. And they used the Hermites, when they make the pilgrimage, they used to make the pilgrimage. Two places they made the pilgrimage to. Lalibela, which was built. It was a replica of Jerusalem, an exact replica of Jerusalem. Because they thought Jerusalem would be destroyed and they'll have a place to go to. The Hermites would go there for the pilgrimage, just like the Muslims go to Mecca for their pilgrimage annually, and they go to the churches in the mountains of Ethiopia. That's where they go. And they die there. Right? So, coming forward now, as we come forward now, we've gotten into Christianity, which is a younger Christian religion than all of the others. Mind you, the oldest Jews on the face of the earth are Falashas. Falashas are from Ethiopia. You remember at one time they were repatriating Jews from Ethiopia and put them in Israel? Because they are the original Semite. We are the original side. Yeah, the word Semite means south of the Mediterranean, which is Africa. So they're the Semites. The original Semites. Now you mentioned the Ashkenazis. The Ashkenazi are European Jews. And the Sephardics are Semites. Pretty much the Semite Jews. A lot of people don't know these things and understand these things in Judaism. Right? So, the point what I'm making here is that Ethiopia played a major role. It was the major trading point of the entire Horn of Africa to the east. And here's a little thing that you need to know. Islam came along in the year 700, late 600 AD to 700. Right, in Mecca, which is the Mecca Medina, the same area which formerly was Africa up until 150 years ago when they created the Middle East, the notion, right, of Middle East. Now, they had Arab traders. You know what unified the Arabs who lived in that peninsula, the Arab Peninsula, which is called the Arab Peninsula? Islam. Before they used to fight each other, Islam unified them in the 700s. And when that took place, they began to trade throughout Africa. Mind you, they're African people. The only reason their hue is lighter today is because of interbreeding closer to Europe, like Greece and what have you, and people traveling over the years. So they were the original traders, even before the Europeans got into the game. They started in the 700s trading along the east coast of Africa, and they started the slave trade first before the west coast Africans, which came in the 1600s on the west coast. They traded slaves for 1,000 years before the West got into the slavery on the East Coast. And they spread Islam along the east, all the way down to Mozambique, along the East Coast. And when they traded, so you had a lot of trade outposts along the East Coast. And they traded slaves. It's called the Indian slave trade. That started in the 700s all the way through. And what they did, the slavery was different. Because if they marry a woman, right? I marry a woman, the kids are not slave. And not only that, the woman had more priority than the men. They were more expensive when they bought, if they were to able to buy a person, a slave. And you couldn't resell a slave. And those slaves basically went to India and Persia. Because you must remember, the African had more experience in cultivating food and all that sort of thing. And those cultures came up later along the way. They were not as advanced at that point. So that there was a necessity for that. All right? So all in Madagascar and all the way up to Kenya, they were dotted with this, that they were trade. And that is how Swahili came around. Because if you notice, all the way down, with the language, the largest language in Africa is Swahili. This is laced with Arabic words. Most of the words, a lot of it is Arabic. If you speak Arabic, you will understand Swahili. You understand? And so, but there's a conflict with the African people and Islam. Because remember, Islam only started 700 years, 80, way after Christianity, right? But the conflict is, how do you slave your black people and still have, I'm still Islam, a Muslim? That's one of the conflicts they have in Africa right now with Islam. Big conflict. Now, the Portuguese got in the game in the 1600s, right? Which is funny. The Portuguese got in the game in the 1600s, the trading game in the 1600s, 1,000 years after the Arabs were doing it, because the Arabs were making money, right? The Berbers and the Arabs, which is Berbers really, they were Berbers, we call them Arabs. But Berbers, they were dark hue, just like the Nubians and all the other offshoots, the Ditka, the Maasai, all of these, the Bantu people, all of these people, all black people. Offshoots, you know, of that, right?
You know,
they got into the trade. I'm sorry.
It's interesting though, as you make the point in relation to Islam's. You know that biblically Islam and Christianity are blood brothers, literally from one father, Abraham. It is said that the son that Abraham got with the handmaiden, Hagar, whichever way they may pronounce it, Ishmael. It is out of Ishmael, that son, that the Islam nation formed, and out of Isaac, the son that
Isaac,
he got for his
Jewish.
wife. Eventually, that's the you know. But these are things that sometimes, you know. So sometimes when I tell people Islam and Christianity are literally blood brothers, and the main difference is one accept Yeshua or Jesus as the Son of God and the only Son, and the other one just see him as another prophet. I am thinking at this point we would go through some of the comments on the wall, and then we will take a break, and then when we come back on the second half, we will get into some more of this African consciousness, and then we're going to try to zoom it in and connect it to St. Kitts and Nevis, and also zoom in a bit on your thoughts in terms of economics and the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis, and some of the ideas that we could utilize to empower ourselves to get out of the situation that we have found ourselves in. In some cases, it has been intentional. But even so, we're at a point where we have enough information, we have enough knowledge, and we have enough people who can empower us out of this scenario. So when we come back, we're going to get into that. Let's see, on the Facebook side of things, Kevin Hanley says, good evening. Delicious Nichols Brown says, good evening all. Cheech Warner says, midday. On the YouTube side of things, we have Trevor Benjamin says, I'm standing by. Oliver Liebert, which is Ali, the honeyman.
Yes, sir.
Says, hi Kings, I am in the house. C. Gaskell says, very interesting. I was under the impression that the Arabian Peninsula was considered a part of Asia and that Africa began at Egypt. That's a lot of what was taught in history, but you know, ancient history and ancient texts would put all of those places that is now considered the Middle East as a part of ancient Abyssinia, as it would have been called back in the day. Gaskell, to whitewash Africans, Yahsonn, it still happens today. It's very important to counter that and reconnect with the true African history. Evan Nisbet says this is the history that should be taught in schools. So, I'm just going through these to allow you to recognize to Glendale Herbert that people are listening, they're paying attention, and they're looking forward to this kind of discourse and this kind of discussion. Maybe 5, 10 years ago, this might not have been something that might have been appealing to many, but we are in the information age, and I think it is timely that we have these kinds of discussions. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back. When we get back, folks, in the meantime, before we take the break, subscribe to our YouTube platform while we're on the break. Click on the notification bell. If you are watching us on Facebook, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, log on to Real Entertainment Network. With that said, technician, take us out to the
At Shabazz Organics, we believe real people deserve real food. So we're bringing you to Mansa's Last Stop, a farm where food barriers are removed and legacy is sustained. We believe there's power in picking, so we allow you to decide what leaves the farm and enters your kitchen organically.
Beat the summer heat, come and get your carambola, star fruit, make very nice drink. Come pick them yourself. All the trees them full of vitamin C, antioxidant, build up your immune system. Man's Last Stop. A whole shopping bag for only $10. Half a shopping bag you pay $5. If you get $2, you must get some. Come get your carambola. Don't want to go to wait. Let's go, people.
When comfort, class, and reliability matter, choose the ride that delivers more. Imperial Rides Transportation Services, where every journey is treated like royalty. From airport transfers, private events, shopping trips, island tours, and executive travel, Imperial Rides moves you in style, clean, comfortable, on time, every time. Book your premium taxi or tour service today. Call or WhatsApp 869-665-8459 or email elandflavas@gmail.com. Imperial Rides Transportation Services. Your journey, our priority.
And we are back with the second half of this evening's edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. This evening we have with us our esteemed and very special guest, Mr. Glendale Herbert, and my usual co-host Shabazz Bankie King, and we are into Al-Cable and consciousness this evening. I intentionally use the word Al-Cable because that's one of the ancient names of the landmass that is now called Africa. As we started the show, we said that Oli is the indigenous name for the island known as Nevis. Likewise, Nevis is the Europeanized name that was given, so to speak, by Columbus. Well, let me not segue into that before I make this point. As I was saying, though, that Al-Cable is the ancient name for Africa. It's quite important that we have these kinds of discussions at these times. The number to call in if you want to be a part of the discussion is 1-869-662-7196. That's 1-869-662-7196, and we want to encourage you to call in. Don't wait until the last minute. If you want to get a question in, just be precise. Sorry, be as forceful as you want, as passionate as you want, but please respect the platform, respect yourself, respect our guests, and that's all we ask. For those of you who are on the platforms, you can pose your questions there. We try our best to pay attention to the platform, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, and we try to, as much as possible, recognize your inputs on the platform. Glendale, welcome back, and we're back in the second segment. We would have
Before Glendale
yes,
get into his second segment, what we're here discussing shows that our people are not really in tune with themselves. Otherwise, we would not be here fighting over a project like you want to put the next Israel. You see what I mean? We should this would, if our people was conscious enough what is happening now and happening over at Frigate Bay, it shows none of our past 30 years it was we waste time. I elect people over and over, just different parties. We not the whole of peninsula gone. Cause that is the same thing, and then we do this, and then you got White Gate supposed to come up. So and all these supposed to be intellectual people. Intellectual in what way? I mean, come on. They're canning us, brethren. They're canning us instead of providing work. 4 seasons done there. Penny's Beach, till they they clean land again. Nobody talk. They stop cleaning the land. It's the same matters in a court. Nobody talk. Mount Travers done gone again. Brethren, we're not serious about nothing. Our people don't need no help. We're just doing this show, but they need no help. Me don't see that. And me don't nobody to convince me. We just watch each other. We're so divided. And every time I speak, I have a lot of preacher friends. Their current bill going up too. Destiny going to affect them too. 40, 50,000 people where the minorities. And everybody play party politics. Like their great grandchildren, children. Not going to be looked down on. Soon in the next 5, 10 years, you can't tell who the Jamaicans, them from St. Lucia, them from Dominica, all the other Caribbean countries, indigenous people too. Because all we're going to be the minority who can tell they can to say they're not indigenous people too. That is how this is how this going to become. Everybody going to claim to be because and they'll have a right because we be outnumbered. So they're going to say it and lie and get away with it. That because when you have a system that is overpopulated, who they send bad small and navies and have the same population and them are run common navies because the rich folks don't they fight against each other. Same thing as St. Martin, they don't fight against each other. So you think they come in and fight against each other too? They same bats to fight each other, you know, so everyone come on navies, you know. So metal that's the reality here. If you meet about same bats, people want to come on navies. This is the reality. You see? For the love of money. And that is our problem as we act like we're accustomed to nothing. We are quicker to go the most important thing for us, our land. We all live in the sky, out in this water. Who control the land, control the people, my virgin. That is just as simple as it is. That is just as simple as it is. You don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that.
But this shows you how far back we are and how much they would have done a number on us in terms of
no. Who that? Who brainwash us?
When I say us,
who you say brainwash us?
Majority of the people, because
let me say this. Watch me. Just in the 60s, Bradshaw put things in place to buy back all these lands. Just when Malcolm X got killed, Martin Luther King the same way. So what you saying? Our people are the problem, Virgin. This have nothing to do with no other color, race, nothing, you know. This is a systematic against ourselves. We are the problem.
But let me finish my point. You know. Because that's the point that I was just about to make.
Else, you know.
The point I was just about to make is that all I know still, these same lands, as you said, Butcher put in place for us to get. Look, we still here have people who we elect to represent us, still considering those lands as crown lands, and we still here fighting as a people can occupy some of these crown lands because people who look like us came out of the same struggle like us, but up to represent a system that was not designed for us, but the status quo benefits them, and so they continue to function within that scope because it benefits them, and then they fail us within that system, and then they're left now with nothing else to do but to try to sell out the land. Because anybody know, any common individual would know that if you have to, in any point at this point, get brokes, as we would say locally, you will sell your car, you will sell your house, you would sell, well, not your house, let me not put your house on the land, unless it's one of them wooden houses so you can move. but you're gonna sell all your clothes and shoes and all of this. The last thing you look to sell is your land. And if you are elected to lead us and you are telling us that your first option and your best option is to sell out the land and tell us, well, you're gonna give us jobs after we sell out the land. Well, I don't need to go to any college or any university to see that something is wrong with that philosophy. And so the reality is, though, we have a set of people who can't see that. Seem as if they need rocket scientists or somebody to get them to see that something is wrong with that. You started off with agriculture. You turn everybody said that agriculture is hard work and it reminds them of slavery, so they got into tourism. They went into offshore banking. They went into CBI. All of these options, that's what part of their efforts to diversify the economy and do things for the people. And some of the simple things that they could have done, they opted not to do. Now, after trying all of those things, and they have failed, the last thing left is to sell out the patrimony, sell out the passport, sell out the land, and tell you that that's the best thing for you to do. I guess that's the philosophy of the UN 2030 agenda. Own nothing and be happy. I think that's part of the philosophy right now. Own nothing and live free and be happy. Because that's the society that they're trying to create right now, where you live in this kind of bubble community, and everything is in there for you, so you don't need to even have to come out of the society. And I guess this is going to be a demonstration of what is part of this Destiny project. Now, speaking of Destiny, and the economy, right now, Mr. Herbert, the premier is proposing the Destiny project, so to speak, as one of the economic saviors, so to speak, for the island, and maybe we could even dare say the Federation. Your views in terms of the Destiny project, one, and if you are not in favor, what are some of the suggestions, so to speak, that we could utilize as a African economy, Afrocentric economy at this point, to empower ourselves, other than that project? Because we hear sometimes too that, oh, you are criticized, but you all ain't got no solutions. So, your take.
Well, frankly, my position, and I'm unabashed about my position. My position, I am not in favor of Destiny. Let me just make that clear, unequivocally. All right? That's just my personal position. I am a student of history. I understand history. I understand Pan-African history. I understand our history as a people. And I'm steep in that. And I'm steep in Individual culture and Individual history. I understand it very well. I know my roots. My family has been here some 300 years, traced. We settled in the area of Montpelier, what you call Montpelier today, which was extended all the way through Brown Hill and all the way to the sea, and all the estates that involved. Yeah, my great-grands and my grandparents. I know where I'm from. And I know my lineage. Keenly, I researched it, and I was told who I am, so that's important to me. Now, what's in place of Destiny? I think we have a lot of resources in this country to move the country forward and to keep our patrimony in place and the people's integrity in place. And there could be a better approach to that and support the people. That could support the people and lifestyles. I think two of the major things we have going forward, I think geothermal is a great thing for us in terms of making money for the country. It turned around Iceland. That brought Iceland from being the number 28 economy in Europe, last almost, to number 10 economy in Europe in terms of GDP. That's what geothermal did with Iceland. It made the people of Iceland, some 300,000 people of Iceland, invested in geothermal and made their lives, quality of lives, much better than it was years ago before they discovered geothermal. They do all the byproducts, they sell all the byproducts. So I think it's a game changer in a positive way, news as an industry. If we have the patience and we can roll it up and we keep our patrimony. I think the next thing in our arsenal, and I look at places like Singapore, which is ranked in the top 3 countries in the world today, in terms of its economy, in terms of per capita income, and all that. Singapore, per capita income is over 100,000 per annum for each person, and the average. And how they did it is a place filled with mosquitoes, historically. And what they did, they created what's called a bi-shipment port, a hub in the Far East. And that's where they started to make money. They don't have any resources, but we have a second resource embedded, other than geothermal. And for the life of me, I don't see how people don't understand this. We have a country where we have the most house per capita, properties per capita, meaning everybody has a house. And we're house rich and pocket poor in this country. And it's sad. And it's a big resource in this country, our housing stock. And what I'm trying to say is that in the United States, the housing market, the real estate market is a driver of the economy. It's a major driver of the US economy. If housing starts are down, it means the economy is down. When I mean housing starts, I mean the building of new homes. That's what the word means, housing starts. Right? That's how they refer to it. And we have an economy, everybody has a house, but they're poor. And why they're poor? Because the equity in those properties has not been used or leveraged. What I'm saying by that is that if you built a house 10 years ago and you've paid, let's say you built it for $350,000, $400,000 for you 10 years ago, and other people came and built homes similar to the type of home you build next to you. Real estate is about location, all about location. It means that your values would go up over time, is real estate. And if you go and do an assessment today of those houses built 10 years ago, they would tell you the value is $750,000. You have accrued value. But in this country, you don't do anything with the value for the most part. You have the value sitting because the banking system that does not work with you. In states, it's different. So I've accrued $750. Let's round off the number for ease of conversation. $800,000, the property is worth, right? In 10 years. You've paid down on your mortgage. You've almost paid it down, the $300,000. Let's say you owe only out $100,000 today. But it's valued at $800,000. So you have $700,000 net in cash in your house today. We have a lot of homes where people are poor. There's no need for that. Right? So you have $700,000, the person who have a house, right? The banking system, the central bank in April 4th of this year, Antoine came out with a speech and says, listen, we have $28 billion on hand in cash in our banks for the Eastern Caribbean, meaning the OECS countries, 8 OECS or whatever number they are, on hand, cash on hand. And we have $16 billion out in loans in the Caribbean, meaning from Grenada's, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, all the way down St. Kitts Nevis, not Barbados and Jamaica and the rest. Only OECS that's used Eastern Caribbean currency. 28 billion in hand. So we're cash rich. We do nothing with it. So he's come up with this program called, I think it's called the big, I remember the term he used. I think the big start or the big whatever it is. He wants to front load this cash out. He's advocating to the banks like National Bank, for example, which is the biggest bank in the Caribbean in terms of his portfolio and his cash on hand. Right? He wants a front load. He wants to get this money out to the people to make it begin to work. Because we're not in a cash crisis in this region. In St. Kitts Nevis, we're the leading economy in the Caribbean. We are the leading, barring none. Okay? In St. Kitts Nevis. He wants to get that cash out. But there's a bottleneck in the system. The banks, the matrix, whatever you use the word matrix, I mean in terms of how they assess loans, giving loans as stringent, right? And so he wants to give it to entrepreneurs, farmers, blue market, blue economy people coming, coming with ideas. He wants to get the monies out. Now, guys, if we have people live in these homes, and we have a housing stock that is so vast in Nevis. Nevis in particular, I'll use Nevis. Most on St. Kitts, the housing stock is bigger in Nevis per capita, meaning per person who live on the island, because the population is small, but everybody in Nevis have homes, right? But St. Kitts Nevis for conversation. Now, the idea, if I have the house for 10 years and I have $700,000, remember I said you paid on $200,000 or $300,000 your bill. That's $100,000 in cash. But you can't realize it. But you're wealthy. And you don't know you're wealthy. You're not wealthy, but you're marginally wealthy, mean. Because there are people who have $1 million homes, right? Okay. The banks can create programs where they can give you loan to value, LTVs, for easy conversation, right? Loan to value of 70%. So they'll give you on your 700,000, 70% in cash, right? Which is somewhere in the region, 70% of 21. Okay, that's $490,000. I'll give it $490,000, at least $700,000 you have sitting in your home, Yahsonn. That home that I just told you had, that is valued at $700,000, right? So if I give you $490,000 in cash, I could give it to you in cash. Your new mortgage now is $590,000. Remember, you had owed only $100,000 left. So your new mortgage, $590,000, right? For the next 15 years or whatever the case is. But you got working capital now. But you're still in your house. A house is a vehicle for wealth. That's what it's done. In the States, that's what a house is for. It's the first step to wealth and to realizing wealth. So this is, I'm showing you where we have resource in the country to drive an economy. But here's the trick. You got the 490. Yahsonn, Bankie had an idea. Boy, I want to build this massive farm and I want to produce watermelons. I just give him whatever. At mass production. Because I have buyers around the world that I can take this stuff. I can take my farm to a different place. Now you got $490,000 to develop that farm. And you understand? And now you really, you get your, you understand? And now the banks now want to get involved. Here, what I find, I know they need to get out of the way. Because you're taking that $490,000 of your equity out. It has nothing to do with the banks as it relates to what you're going to do with the money. That is not their business. Why is it their business? They have a house. Paper. Meaning they have a house. The title to the house. Which is valued at $800,000. And they give me $490,000. So they're covered. They're giving me a loan at 70% of value. So they hold back 30% of the value of the property. And they're going to give me a portion, but they still have the paper. If I default, they own the house and they can resell and recover. Then it's the 400 whatever thousand. Right? So my point is, you now have working capital as a businessman who have an idea, or you want to build a business complex, or whatever it is you want to build. Right? Or whatever. So the idea now is to all these homes. Now, if you were to be able to do that, but government has to work in partnership with the banks. In the case like that, the central bank has the big push. The idea is called the big push, right? That became to the banks, all these membership banks, like National Bank, the Bank of Nevis, all of these are part of the central bank. Bank Antigua, all of them, right? The idea, what government has to do is partner with the banks is this. Government has to look at the transfer tax. The stamp duty, you have to pay, the seller has to pay 10%. So if you, for example, if I were to buy your home, I'm just flipping the conversation slightly. If as an investor want to come and say, well, buy a house from Bankie. I'm putting your house aside now, just to show you another picture. The transfer tax to me to collect the house from Bankie and pay Bankie for the house, Bankie has to pay the government 10%, or whatever I buy the house for Bankie for, right? That retards. So Bankie said, why no, you're cutting into my money. 10% of $500,000, $50,000 I got to pay for the government. For example, in countries like, even in the States or whatever, the transfer tax is made minimal, 1% or less. Because they don't look at that. The idea now is to put money in people's hands. Back to you. No, Yahsonn. The idea now with the 490,000, the idea is to put money in people's hands, working capital, because guess what? When you take the $490,000, you're going to probably excavate your land, you hire backhoe, you hire carpenter, or whatever you hire. You're going to build a building, or you're going to build a tool and die company to make tools, or whatever you're doing. The point is you're going to hire people. And you're going to spend the money in the same revolving economy. The banks is safe because the banks got the property. And if you can't service the debt, if you build an apartment building, the rental of the apartments can debt service itself. Meaning debt service meaning that you're going to pay for the apartment to the banks, the costs
Right.
to the banks, the mortgage. You understand? And you still got your house, and you're still living well. You understand? And you're building wealth. But the attitude and the government has to work in partnership in terms. You got to see themselves as, oh, I need to go collect my transfer tax, my stamp duty at 10%. But 10% is not nothing compared to what you're going to get on all the spin out, what's called the exponential, or the not the exponential, it's called the multiplier effect from this one act. And we're talking thousands of people. It's an industry.
So,
But you see, when
so
you
you're
don't
telling
have people who understand how things work,
so you're
they're
telling
very
me,
defensive.
Glendale,
So,
these intellectuals we have who for all these PhDs and all these things, running all these banks, don't know what you hear, what people listening here saying, that when you have equity, if I'm in my house and my house don't pay down X amount, everything you're paying and it come down over 10 years, 15 years, well, then I make
no, so
equity in the house.
you don't work for
They don't
them.
know that.
You don't work for them.
And they just choose not to do these things. These are things by design. And that's why I say our people are the problem. Because we have too much intellectual people here who know these things, sit everything in the system and keep quiet. And leaders also, we entertain these things. Because these things are going in America more than 50 years now. So we're saying, we acting like we're blind.
So
We
drugs
like a
economy.
Flintstone. I want to run with the foot like a car. And I lift up the car and I run. And I go down and with some wooden wheels and so forth. We not act like intelligent people when it comes to these simple basic things here, where we have all these
And
homes. And we're afraid and we can't get equity out of our house. I
what?
know many people in the US who are sticking out equity out of the house all the time. Yeah, all the time.
Brilliant.
Only
You
here
got the
can't do
point
these
now.
things. This is a joke.
And, and hold on, it creates circulation of cash in the economy, because if I give you
Of
money, I
course.
give you some money and you own a home, it pump, the money is being circulated. Money, listen to me, unless money is used as the velocity of money is something called the velocity of money. If I want to buy a washing machine and you want to buy a fridge, the money from you got to hit me now. You understand? When you spend it, it got to hit Bankie, got to move. If it
Of
doesn't
course.
move, it's constrained, it's choked off in the economy. And then you begin to get stagflation and inflation, because there's
The
lack of
problem,
new capital coming in the economy.
no.
You understand?
The
Now,
problem
hold on a
is
second
here.
before you back.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Hold on one
Go
second,
ahead.
please.
No,
What I'm
go
trying
ahead.
to
Go
say,
ahead.
what Antoine has cited is the US banking system. That's what he's trying to introduce and get these people to come around. But the politicians have to help, because they have to
No.
change policy as related to the tax policy and lowering the
No.
transfer tax.
They're taking up our money and I give it to big corporations. And we have to be real with it. The same National Bank and them and get how we money. We money be. And then I give Christoph Harbour, then I give National Bank, where other way, Marriott, and all the others. Your son, we have a call coming here. Let me take this call.
Sad.
Caller, good
Not
evening.
building up it.
The call went. Caller, you can call back. I'm sorry about that. You sent
So,
to hang up.
Bankie, you
Yes.
are so right with not empowering our people, and that is the difficulty that we find ourselves in. As you're saying, we cash rich, yeah, but our elected officials are more lightened to give the money to some foreigner coming in with a briefcase and some idea, and they would invite to go to our banks to take the money, and we would be here with the same ideas, and they would not find ways. They would bend backwards for these people, but they wouldn't even lift up a straw to empower us.
And the sad
that
part,
is
and the sad
right.
part, guys, the sad part, we're not people centric. We're not looking at our people. We have so much opportunities and there's so much opportunities, and the politicians not seeing. Oh, I don't know what it is. They can't. You understand?
But they are
Just like you say,
they're
Yahsonn.
seeing.
The guy comes here with a briefcase. The guys, you understand? And you have so much wealth here in your economy with all these homes, and the people are cash go struggling.
But Glendale, they're seeing, they're seeing, but it is what they are seeing. They are seeing how they can maintain themselves for the next 5 years and how much they can get out of the system for the next 5 years. That is what they are seeing. So that is why when they see me and you come, they know that me and you is not going to even if our business is thriving, going to take up $1 million and put it in their campaign fund. They know that we are not going to sign a shady deal that maybe them and their friends and the crony get some business around the corner out of it. But they do that with the others because they can convince them, hey, you know what I mean? Election gonna be around the corner, put a little million over there and then we walk it back out some way around the bush and so. And they can do these things because still we're at the point where campaign funding is not where you have to mention where you get it. At this point, they could still do whatever they want to do. And so even right now, whether they're getting money from Destiny or whoever, they don't have to say. And these are things
And you know what?
we say
You know, guys, let me make this.
all we're democratic about is the right to vote. That's the only democracy we have, that right to vote. Anyway, go ahead.
This is a disclaimer, right? Because this is important to point this out. Even if you, your son, and come back to you again, took that $490,000, your mortgage don't necessarily have to be any higher than what it was when you took that $350,000 to build a house here, and you paid it down to $100,000. Why? It's because when you refi, you do rate and term, meaning they lower the rate. They outflow the cash, they give you a lower rate. It's called rate and term, right? So if your rate when you got into the deal back then, 10 years ago, was 10%, New Zealand number, they get a rate and term for 7.5 in the refi. Your payment is pretty much the same as what you were paying back then. So the stress on you is not any, you don't even feel it. Yeah, you got the point I'm making? Because it's rate and term, they extend the term of the loan so that you understand they can make back their money over the time, the banks, right? But what they're doing is fueling the economy by affording you this cash to do things. And you see, this is what I'm saying. So people need to understand you're not losing anything. The point is people are struggling. For example, Bankie earlier said that the current electricity rate, some people are going to pay double and what have you, based on what they just said, right? In terms of the new rates, electrical rates, right? People are going to be struggling. Now, people don't have to be in that situation if these things were available to people when they have so much wealth. And a lot of people's income are not increasing. Their income hasn't increased. So the disposable income has shrunk, right? Disposable income has shrunk. And they're being choked off at the neck. Food prices are up. Fuel the prices to fill up the cars are up. I have no idea how some people are going to bridge the gap. That's real.
That is not.
The politicians are thinking, and all you're doing is hurting your people when you give your wealth, which is your country, which is your lands and your property. That's your wealth. In America, if you're your first home, your second home, for example, in the United States, they say that's your wealth builder. That's how people become rich. Through homes. And they refire, they build a business here, and they build apartment building, and they keep doing it, and the children come and they do the same thing, and they inherit these things.
You know, Glendale, I am really grateful for you this evening and for the discussions that we're having. And I think the folks on the platform is as well. We have comments. So Carlisle Paris says, like, comment, subscribe to Real Entertainment Network. I think it's a good timing for us to mention that as well. So we want to encourage all of you who are on, go on over. Those of you who are on the YouTube platform, take 10 seconds, subscribe to the platform. That is all we're asking. We're not asking for a donation. We're not asking for money right now. Just take 10 seconds, subscribe to the platform, like and share. Big up Bankie, Yahsonn, Tafari, and our guest, Mr. Glendale Herbert. More love and strength.
Yes,
and hail up Jama. Kush says, I give thanks for Real Entertainment Network for all the works that you do. Trevor Benjamin says, gentlemen, great program, Glendale. This is deep. Trevor Benjamin says, that's so ridiculous. The stamp duty on the sale of your own property. I've always said this, the banks are not customer friendly. Over on the Facebook side of things, Original Lyric says, good evening, my brethren. Give thanks to you guys for enlightening us.
Have a call coming in here, Yahsonn.
Yeah, just went the call. Come on, just tell them hold on. I just got two more comments. Answer the call. Take the call. Delicious. Nicholas Brown says, real talk, Tafari selling out our land should never be an option. Look who we want to be majority and get our prime lands. Nevis never produced one dummy. If given the chance, serious-minded Nevision shine. We have to understand we have to choose politicians with vision and who listen to the very persons who voted for them. Okay, so we got a caller on the
All right.
line. Good evening. Good evening, caller.
Carla, good evening. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Yes.
Good evening, brethren. Excellent point, Glendale. I think basically the US, what they use is what you call a HELOC, home equity line of credit. So basically,
Correct.
you don't have to go back to all that stringent paperwork and stuff. And that, making a point, you have a mortgage on the books already. You don't have to do all that paperwork. You could just give it equity, and you can use that money for investment.
Yes.
And you speak with a lot of passion. So I think part of it is that the bankers there, the people, the guys that are in banking, needs to be more innovative. A lot they just sit down. Part of it is sensitizing the public, sensitizing the people, teaching, having the information, the opportunities where they could tap into this product and to more or less expand and, because the situation we are, we're doing an investment and, persons from outside see, man, is an excellent idea. And the bankers then figure, you're doing, why you want to invest? Why you want to invest in another property? So a lot of times it's the people there are very in terms of their capacity to think, broaden their eyes in terms of thinking, empowering people. And they look at the outside folks as people to invest. You have local people who invest too and are investors, so excellent points there, Glendale and the team. Thanks.
All right, beautiful. Thanks for your contribution, Carla. Appreciate it. That Carla made some excellent point, and as you can see, the people are in tune. And this is, as I said, this is nothing new. It's line of credit. I have too much friends and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And my dad and mom, they take out home credit out the house all the time. It's their money. They don't pay it down. You understand?
Bankie,
Whether units is yours, whether it's one next piece of property, and I send your children to school, whatever it is your money. But here, no, you need people to give other people with money.
the banks depend on, for the most part, savings. They make their money through savings. That's not where you make your money in banking, in real big banking. It's holding paper. And, they got to start, listen to me, they got to start advertising these products. They got to be aggressively advertising the products. They don't do that. They sit back, the banks sit back. In other territories, they advertise these products to the people, so educate and make the people aware that you can do this and you can do that. Hopefully, the central bank would have that level of influence. Yes.
They advertise music festival loans. They advertise cultural
exactly.
loans. They advertise summer loans to buy a car. These are what they're advertising. Vacation loan, but not no home equity loan for investment for you. No, they're not doing that.
And banking, Yahsonn, let me say this. In the United States, there are a number of industries that drives the economy. Pharmaceuticals, oil, real estate. That is what carries the U.S. economy. Oil, pharmaceuticals,
construction, yeah.
You understand? Those are big trillion-dollar industries, multi-trillion dollars industries that drive the U.S. economy. Housing starts are down by 2 points this quarter, of 3 points, meaning 3%. That's a big deal in the economy. You're talking about trillions of dollars lost in the economy. All right? I'm saying housing starts mean building of new homes. All right? Let me bring it in, how it's, the language, because some people will not be familiar with the language. So Nevis has a housing boom.
Of course.
We've had a housing boom for a while. But there's nothing. The house is just like a big stone. You still sit on it, and it's not valued anything to you. It doesn't create no wealth for you. And that should be a driver of your economy. Just like geothermal can be a driver of the economy, right? Or if we had oil, or if you had pharmaceutical companies producing pharmaceuticals, and because the pharmaceutical carries the medical profession throughout. So that's why it's so massive.
But even so, Glendale, the point also about land ownership or having land, like, and we don't have to go too far to use an example, like the Southeast Peninsula and St. Kitts, when infrastructure was put in place over on that side, when they put in the roads and water and electricity and so on, the landowners on that side, their property value went up in numbers. So just using that model, because sometimes people say, well, what is the solution? If the infrastructure was put in over there, for example, if governments were to get the money to put in the road over there, put in the water, put in the electricity and all that, the landowners over there presently, even if they were going to sell, they were going to get maybe 3 or 4 times of what they're getting now. That's one. And with the infrastructure in place, some might have considered, developing some areas and maybe leasing out some to maybe developers that may have ideas and so on, and they would have been making money versus having to no option of selling it, because government who should be empowering them and are taking their taxes every year for the land still is telling them that nothing is of value out there and they can't do anything. So
that is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense that the lands out there is of no value. Stupidity at the highest order. Anybody said anything like that? Why? Because lands always accrue in value. Year to year, properties accrue in value. It doesn't matter. I remember Bankie, and I don't know about your son, but I know Bankie would remember this. I remember over this, so what you call port to go over Hosfords, the hill by Hosfords, a pure cash was over there. Pure cashew. They had no houses over there, no properties. I remember the dropping a port road and a port. And hundreds of houses all the way into Cherry Gardens in that area, and values are shot up in the area. Overnight, you understand? It is nonsense. You're about empowering people and building people wealth. If the lands over there, for example, have been barren or nobody living, and you drop in infrastructure, you see overnight how those values go up. If you're thinking about these things, my point is, even if Destiny, for example, I'm going to use Destiny. Let's use Destiny, for example. And I can't speak about what's inside Destiny. I'm kind of shackled in terms of talking about what's going on inside Destiny, right? But I'll say, if take Destiny, for example, right? If Destiny come in and let's say they buy these lands, and for example, they resell these lands because they're taking our lands, in my mind. They're taking our lands to make money. Because they're taking our lands, you're going to sell your passport, from what I understand, right? They're going to sell your passport. They sell the passport. The government make a little few, whatever, 100 or 1,000 or whatever they make. They sell 100 of them, 1,000 of them, fine. But look, you got to look at this in a bigger way. That's only a static approach, meaning you make the money one time and boom, it's a bubble in time. That's all. In time, in a singular time, that's a bubble. Boop, you make the money. But let's talk about the successive years out, right? The land that you sold for $10 a square foot or $5 a square foot, whatever you sell it for, over there. Believe you me, they're going to make hundreds of times on the dollar on that. Why? They're going to be able to put $1 million property in this one and that one, right? They're going to sell them for millions of dollars here and there. They'll make hundreds of times more than what on the dollar than what they buy it for. And you'll sit back 20 years or 30 years from now and say, what the hell did I do to myself? I'm telling you.
Because you're only seeing
to my family or my lineage. You will do that. I guarantee you will do that in posterity as time goes on when you look back.
Making a decision to sell property over there is up to the people, let me know. But it shows that they don't mind the island being overpopulated. They don't mind having 40 or 50,000 people. That's a decision once you decide to sell. mean that you have made a conscious decision
Yes.
that you don't mind
Yes.
80,000
Listen,
at the island being in
and
the
the
short
world,
term 10 years. Have this, you don't mean you don't mind.
and
It doesn't matter to you what become
Bankie,
of Davis no more.
Bankie, the world is replete with examples of this globally, historically. With exact examples of this. Where people have to end up standing on the sideline and looking at castles built next to them and wealth being generated next to them, and they can't touch it. They can only imagine what goes on. Their children would see that.
But look at it. What Mr. Jensen is a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. What stops Mr. Jensen from tomorrow, next week, setting up a real estate company, and after he would have purchased these lands, when he's ready to sell back this to the development, as you say, he bought it for 10, let's say using a number, because we don't know the figure that he bought it at, but let's use a figure at $10 a square foot. What if he now with his real estate company, what stops him from saying, well, now you got to pay $100 a square foot or $200 a square foot for the same piece of land?
So now you've made with 100, the example of $100, they made 10 times $100. You're making 10 times $100.
But that's what going to happen, Yahsonn. But that exactly what happened. That is facts.
And Bankie.
That's facts.
And Bankie.
Bankie, our people could have gotten that if the government were to invest the money in the infrastructure in that place, then our people, instead of getting $10, using the same $10 figure now, they would have been getting maybe 50 or 60 per square foot because the infrastructure is in place. And these are the types of discussions that our people are not hearing, because what we're hearing from those who be giving us this kind of discussion is that, oh, you all are going to get jobs. You're going to get people say they want to work. Instead of
well, let me let people know. Next week, at the end of this month, the 30th, we're going to be having a show on Destiny. If the people can call in and vent and have the discussion, because nothing going on. So we're going to so we have a special show edition. The last show of this month will be on Destiny. So just putting that out there. But this is by design, Virgin. We are here speaking about African consciousness, and it shows we are way off from that. So these topics,
what I'm saying
is comedial. You see what I mean? We're not sure we're wiser. Are we putting to lead us? We just like to talk, not acting.
It is for me who understand history and can go all the way back and can discuss anything in history for the most part and understand economics well and understand how all of these things marry. You see, you can be knowledgeable. People can have knowledge, but knowledge only allows you to remember facts. Wisdom is when you can connect the dots. That's the difference. And you can see around corners because examples of history are examples being taken. So a lot of people have knowledge and a lot of knowledge. A plus B plus C, okay, connect the dots and how you understand how it relates to something that's way out there. You understand how that relates, the physics relates then, or whatever it is, and put it here and make it make sense. You can do it.
So why the leaders we have in? Why are the leaders that we have in after the times of Thatcher have gone this way? All of them. All.
You know, there's a thing called conspicuous materialism. There's a thing called conspicuous materialism.
Caller, good evening. Hello.
Greetings.
Yes, you're live.
Okay. All right. There may be a time lapse. I'm just wanting to say I give thanks to the Real Entertainment Network team for bringing real things to us on a level that is able to have a change. Oh, I'm trying to position myself from here. There's so many things to comment on, so I'll try and be brief, but I don't. Hold on.
Caller, you have to turn off the your device. I'm moving from the device in the background. Don't listen to the device. Just talk to the phone.
Okay.
Just turn off the device. I'll move away from the device and just talk to the phone.
Yes, I'll just turn the device down.
Yes, go ahead. Just talk to the phone. Don't listen to the
Okay.
device.
All right, then. I'll give thanks to the Real Entertainment Network team and the topics you bring forward and your guests tonight.
Appreciate it.
There's so much describing. Bankie, I can hear you, I can feel you in terms of what happened to me. I would say to you, sing the song and you can interpret it how you will. Forgive them, Jah, they don't know what they know nothing because some of us just going on away. But then you know about the brainwashing, it's not so easy for all of us to get out of the brainwashing. We all have our own time and space and phases that we have to go. Some reach there quicker than others. And so just hold on there because many more will soon and very soon, you know, hear the words that are being given on this kind of level, talking about our sovereignty. So, yeah, if we look at Fanon, he talks about as we come out and supposedly in emancipation, we will get stuck with these people on politics who deal with who are now seen as politicians. They put themselves into a classification which they somehow feel elevated above their ordinary their mother and father even, and we get caught up into what may be considered as political tribalism, and so that just is divide and rule. So basically we take it over where Master has left off with their theory, the colonial way of system of things, basically the colonial system of things. We're trying to use our middle class, call it so, are trying to use that thing, telling us about democracy and all them things. For me, in my little, my humble opinion, we need to take off these things. Sometimes I listen to Parliament and they say, here, I, and all them something. It sounds like a frog with a suit, you know, and that just is a ridiculous looking thing. You know, it's like we're imitating a system that doesn't fit us. I'm hearing the talk about the monetary system that is. For me, my humble opinion, if we get too caught up into that, then we could end up in money soon done and gone.
All right,
you know, there's traditional ways that people have used over iron without money as we know it.
All right.
So
10 seconds, Carla.
Sorry?
10 seconds to wrap up.
Yeah. I'm considering the fact that if we get caught up in the monetary system, let me just say, if we look at what our indigenous people had done in the past, then we can do the Sankofa and get back on track. That's what I'm saying.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Yahsonn, want to thank that caller for that contribution. Okay, Carla, if you guys are going to be calling about wrap up, so you got to be brief and concise, and any comments if you do choose to call. Glendale?
Yeah, you know, like I say, you know, I think it's a bad idea in terms of money earner. And I think it's a bad idea. That's destiny in terms of your patrimony, and if you have a great sense of history and your people looking out for the people and them young ones coming, you know, behind us, who ain't even born yet. It's important to look out for them Okay, listen, I'm not going to live forever. None of us will live forever. I get another 40 years. I got a lot, but that's fine. Or 30, doesn't even matter. The point is, it's always to look backwards for those who come in behind, and how we can make it a better place for them. My parents did that for me. Most of our parents were thinking about us. And I think we have a responsibility. I just don't, I can't go. It's not something I've seen history, and I say the world is replete with many of these examples. Tried, and I've seen the results, and I can go back. We can go all the way back to slavery, and the removal of people from the Gold Coast, which is today's Nigeria or Ghana, Togo, and Benin, where most of our people come in the Caribbean, or who are in the Caribbean come from, and the world is replete with many of these things over and over. And I just don't see how the same things can be allowed, and without a level of consciousness and without a level of thinking for the people and for your people. Because you have nowhere else to go. You're going in the sea. That is where you think that is where you expect your children to go, in the sea, because that's what's going to happen.
Let me take this call. Yes, a quick call here.
No problem.
Caller, good evening. Can you be brief? Thanks for calling.
Yes, good evening, Bankie, Glenn, and Yahsonn.
Yes.
I just want to say something really short and brief. This is a very vexing issue, so before you get angry and go strict, all I got to say, there is an election coming up, and I ask each and every one to make sure when you vote, because a vote for CCM is a vote for SSZ, and we can't have that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, caller. And that's what we're talking about. Brief and concise, to the point. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Before the caller come in, Bankie, before the caller came in, I was going to respond to a comment Mr. Herbert was saying. He said that he was asking the question where we're going to live is in the sea. And I want to take this time out to commend people like Bratcher back in the day, because if it wasn't for Bratcher and the bold steps that he would have taken in terms of ensuring that all the beaches and St. Kitts and Nevis are public and cannot be privately owned, we might have found ourselves in some situations like I'm seeing happening in Jamaica at this point, where they didn't take such actions. And if we are not careful, because some of these people are seeming to want to take these things for granted, we would have a lot more places like, I don't like to call places name, but on Nevis, we have a place like Four Seasons, for example. Now, they wouldn't say that it's a private beach, but it's still not a beach that a family would want to get up and put the barbecue grill and have a big party down there and the beach in front of the guests. However, we have the right to, or should have the right to. Right? Yes, go ahead.
My point is, we can develop without losing our way and losing ourselves and losing our ability to traverse this little island as we did when we were kids. We can develop, and I've given you the examples of how we can do it. To geothermal continue to use Iceland, which Iceland is number 10, probably 9-10 country in Europe per capita income, right? 300,000 people Iceland has. I give you an example. I said we have another resource in this country is the housing stock. A massive housing stock. We have the biggest housing stock, I would dare to say, in the Caribbean per capita, meaning per individual based on our population. I think a housing stock penetrates somewhere. I would dare say, if we have a population of 10,000, let's say adults, right? As 10,000 adults, our penetration rate is 80% of that 10,000 in houses.
Here's what we're gonna do.
You understand? No country can. Hold on, 1 second, Gus. 1 second. No country can boast that in the region. Nevis, in particular, Nevis.
Okay, what I was gonna do is allow you to take that the rest maybe next minute and a half to do your closing. But while you're doing that, I want to encourage all those who are logged on to take that time as well and subscribe to the YouTube platform. If you're logged on to Facebook, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe before you leave. Don't leave unless you subscribe this evening. In the meantime, thank you very much, Glendale Herbert, for your time and your acceptance to be on the platform to have this discussion with us. I think based on the comments and calls, this is something that we will probably have to revisit at some other time. So I hope that you would be very open to coming back for us to continue another section and have another discussion similar to this. So I want to give you the time to close. While we do that, folks, take that time and subscribe to the YouTube platform. Even if you're on the Facebook, go over to the YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube, and then you can come back. Thank you, Glendale. Your closing remarks.
I want to admonish the people that knowledge is just an assimilation of facts. You learn the facts and you repeat them. That's all knowledge is. Wisdom is connecting those facts, applying those facts, the same group of facts, right? In circumstance and make them relatable in a life. We make them relatable to circumstances and be able to come up with the right answers because you've had enough experience and background where you connect the facts and you know how to make them work. That's where wisdom comes in. A lot of people are knowledgeable, but they're not wise. That's it.
Bankie, your closing.
Well, yes, and I just want to thank the listening and viewing audience for taking the time out and staying with us, and all those who subscribe to the YouTube and Facebook channel, Twitch TV. Greatly appreciate you guys sticking with Real Entertainment and choosing us another Tuesday evening. Definitely next week Tuesday we'll have a show with all members from OFA, Mr. Marsham. Definitely looking forward, and some others may call in and be a part of the discussion of that. It's a new party over in St. Kitts, and stand to have some also contest 11 seats, some over in Navy, some over in St. Kitts. So definitely this season, so we have in different people going to be having up, and then the end of the month we'll have the topic on destiny. But this Friday coming up, we'll be speaking about the high cost of electricity. So that the fly is out for that one, and hopefully have someone call in a managerial position, Nevlek, and give a synopsis of what's going on and stuff like that. But definitely what is going on with the high cost of living, as Glendale mentioned earlier, and stuff like food, fuel, and just everything in general. And it's really going to be just making it very, very frustrating. It seems like even the customer service area where you're going to pay bills are asking for more security, because it's getting real hostile. Because people are very, very frustrated, and nothing have been came out from the government itself, who is the highest user of power. And also there was nothing came out, a memo from NEVLEC itself, that there would be an increase in rate or anything like that. This was just put upon the people. That's another thing, by the people being majority shareholder within a company like this. So it shows that it seemed like everything will become a secret within Nevis now, if the power company taking up the people who is a shareholder for granted. So we got to come better than this. And I always keep saying, we're the problem. If you want change, you got to demand it. Either you're going to make up your mind and decide we're going to pay we bill, but you're not pay the surcharge. Somebody's going to have to come to us, and we got to separate ourselves from separate politics when it comes, because everybody's suffering when it comes to this. Even members from Nebla, who can Nebla can call me. I'm frustrated because they too have to pay like electricity too. In that, let them get free bill. So all of us getting affected. So who going to sit back and say, oh, I'll pay? Nah. Communication is very important. So somebody have dropped the ball here. Big time. Big time. There was no communication. Yes, we know what's going on. We know all these things going on. But government are put there to lead. We like people to do things and expect relief, and not just impose stuff and think it's going to work like that. And I'm going to keep saying until I start seeing the people coming together. We're the problem. We're not going no politician, they blame me because we accept these things. Okay? And some of us go along with it because they're benefiting and shutting a blind eye. And then down the road, your children are going to suffer, and their children, and your children. Are your lineage still be? You see? and we're going to be the laughing stock. And I see it happening. We don't be the laughing stock already because of the love of money. That is our problem. But again, remember tomorrow, again, thanks for all those who are coming out at Shabazz Organics at Manchester's last stop. Tomorrow is Roti Wednesday. We get chicken roti, veggie roti, and then Thursday you have your curry chicken and stuff like that, and Friday you cook up. Saturday you get your soul food, your caramel and fish, your oxtail, your chicken, your this or that. You have the farm day, you get your local produce. I always have green banana, white banana, green plantain, white plantain, cassava, tanya, star fruit, mangoes. And if you just want a farm to come and chill out, across the street is just 30 seconds, you're on the beach. Can't beat it, can't be nothing like that. The idea we know Uncle Mansab legacy alive, and that is something important. We tend to forget to all those who contribute. You have my cousin Billy also for Edmonton over there. We got to keep all those who keep tilling the soul, because at the end of the day, if we, as a people, if we can't sell, as smart and intelligent we're talking, we say nothing, because money can't eat. You see, and this food is the shelf is getting less, and the food is getting more and more expensive. I'm hearing it every day. And in these times here, the citizens should be allowed to get in 2 barrels every quarter. That is how we help the people and pay $1 for it. God leading up straight up to Christmas, we don't get to bring in 4, double it up on the people. But for now, rest of the year, they should be able to bring in 2 barrels every quarter until Christmas. They bring in 4 or 5 to get some relief. We got to demand things. That is what you have to do. We have to demand things. It's owed to us. They're not doing us no favor, and we pay them. We're going to be like, we so docile, and people got to foot in with throat. Nothing on my throat, because I not work. I make it up every day, committed to myself to farm. I'm in a stop farm. I'm in a stop talk when I say injustice. So, better to me stop talk. I'm going to who can't talk, me talk, because I'm a youth, I'm the last youth of 6. So I take me going to sit here and be quiet and think I'm going to try to manipulate my youth and brainwash them not going to work. So these are how I have to deal with my youth in their mind. Strong. Because we live in a way our people are very too timid. They can't work for intelligent people as they boast about. And so and let other people intimidate them. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So folks, we got up. If you all are serious, you don't need no politician to make you march and get up and protest in front of Mevlek. You all do it on your all own. We the people have to get up and we all own. This has nothing to do with politics. This is a high cost of electricity bill upon we. Are supposed to get up and go in front of the premier them office, and in front of the manager office at Nevlek, and in front of wherever they are, supposed to find them and ask for car. This is the next destiny chop on you, and you expect high electricity bill. No discussion, nothing, and you accepting it. And what's he gonna get? Don't get is not more treatment. So tune in for Friday, and we continue the discussion. You all get a chance to call in, and hopefully by now on Friday, you all get enough agitation where you hear the surcharge gone now. So you all until now before Friday, unless we say we get some relief. Tomorrow the premier have a show, whoever have a show, this is what about a relief and demand it. I know excuses. Otherwise you all make up our mind, including me. And we make up one mind. We pay the charges and we're not paying a surcharge. So you rebel, we don't cut off all of we cover, let them cut it off. Let them cut it off. So you have to demand things. They go cut off my mean okay. You look like me, I don't mean okay. Need to take a stand, So if I am willing to take a stand, the pana but me are willing to take a stand. Understand that. Let know they gotta do something about this. Let the premier is come no. This surcharge thing now gonna work. Otherwise we will pay a normal bill, US bill, let them figure out the part there. At least we pay something. But the doubling and tripling up now gonna work. We not accept this from nobody. But that me end there. Further we continue.
All right. Well, you heard it from the man himself, Bankie, giving his views and his opinions where that is concerned. Like he said, at the end of the day, a lot of these things come down to us. I find that we are too much of a docile people. And so as a result, the politicians take advantage of our quietness and humbleness and do what is it that they think it is necessary for them to do for us without any consultations with us. I'm just going to read through a few of the last comments as we make the wrap up. We have Trevor Benjamin says governments are not serious about empowering us. Keeping us poor is a way of controlling us. Definitely. Definitely, that's a part of the strategy. Carlisle Paris says Glendale is so correct. The lack of infrastructure had denied landowners from developing themselves and the island. Pedro Gemot 6120 says greetings, great point by the elder. Trevor Benjamin says Destiny Project is a cash cow for them. The same land will be sold for thousands of dollars per square foot. So buy cheap,
Yes,
sell
sir.
expensive. In that way, it just keeps us out. Caribbean
Yep.
Queen says, Glendale, you were part of a forum a few months ago that everyone in SKN should listen to, where your guest speaker broke down our past, our present, and future situation based on this project. C. Gaskell says, Iceland has a 50-year development plan. Nice example to learn from. Spiler Flick says, man, only 9 likes. And yes, definitely 9 likes is not enough. You know, we got about 80 plus people. Come on, we should have at least 100 likes before we wrap this up. C. Gaskell says, One Love Soldiers, tonight's program was excellent. Kush says, for the love of money. Delicious Nichols Brown says, I always wonder why the government couldn't put in the infrastructure in the area. They want to build destiny. Infrastructure is the easiest money is to get. I fully agree with Glendale. Put in the infrastructure and you'll see how the people make full use of their properties over there. Cheech Warner says, give thanks. Truth towards Bankie blessings. Delicious says,
Yes, sir.
these barrels are coming from the diaspora, the very area they could only run when it's election. Counts us as you said, Bankie, quarterly. All right. So, Bankie, some people are
Yes,
loving
sir.
the ideas. People, we
Yeah,
really
man.
want to thank you all for your time and your efforts. You could be doing a lot of other things this evening, but you're up to log on to Real Entertainment Network. Glendale, thank you very much for being our guest and being patient and sharing your wealth of knowledge and information with us, the host, and also our listeners, because you can tell, and that's why you're up to read out the comments as well, so that you can get a real true feedback of what the people feel about your presence this evening. I see you have a comment to make,
Yes, sir.
so yes.
Just a brief comment on my way out. I've raised the idea of the port road. There was all cash over there. And you had Cherry
Of
Gardens,
course.
Prospect, Munda Track, and multiple businesses over there developed. You understand? Generating income, generating wealth to the properties. You just need to see the examples. Munda Track is there. You could have never been there if you didn't put a road. I
Right.
rest.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So perfect examples, and like I use the example of the Southeast Peninsula, what they call the the Kennedy Simmons Highway over in St. Kitts. That's a perfect example as well, as we bring the show to a close this evening. Thank all of you very much. Thank you for supporting Shabazz Organics. Thank you for supporting Imperial Rides, Taxi and Tours. Keep your eyes and ears open for some of the packages that we're going to be offering. We're offering the Become a New Vision tour. We are definitely, you come in as a local, as a visitor, and you leave as a local. We're going to be definitely doing one of the mango stops. Bankie, you're going to be looking out and seeing us, popping in here and there. We want to welcome one and all to Nevis. We got the Mango Fest coming up. It's mango season. So come and enjoy some real mango visitors. I know you all get mango in the supermarket, but they pick those mangoes sometimes a month or two before and put them to ripen. So get a real mango that ripen on the tree in Nevis. People, I want to thank you all. Bankie, Real Entertainment Network, Ira, and the whole Real Entertainment Network team. Again, as I close, remember, today is Leonard Percival Howell Day. Do some research, because I think the example set by Pinnacle, I think the examples that is set in terms of seeking self-sustenance is something that we should seek to model. And so with that, I want to close things off for this evening. Take some time, research Leonard P. Howell, and thank us later. Greetings, everybody. Enough love, guidance, and protection.
Into the world, the Topiks, Bankie and Yahsonn. conversations. Hey. Lately we be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations with the people, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, few got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Tuesday night and everybody tuned in live. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing reasoning every time. Talking politics and the things affecting lives. Breaking down the stories they be trying to hide. Used to trust the system, now the trust gone. Everybody talking loud, but the facts wrong. People tired of the fake and the gimmicks too, so they coming to the topics for a clearer view. Got the whole Caribbean locked on the station. Real entertainment network building conversations. No script vibes, not staged for the camera. Just real people talking straight with stamina. Lately we be having conversations, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. We be having conversations, cause too many media houses changing up the news. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, who got facts instead. We be having conversations, cause we feel like there's nobody really talking truth. Sometimes Fridays got a special live session. Big topics got the whole place stressing. Agriculture, crime, economy discussion. Every episode spark another conversation, and the comments start flying when the live start. Everybody got a view from the heart. Some agree and some disagree too, but at least the topics bringing real views. No pretending when the mic turn on. Yahsonn reasoning while Bankie stay strong. People checking in from overseas too, cause authentic conversation hard to come through. Everything was green light, now we seeing red. Everybody got opinions, you got facts instead. We be having conversations with the people, cause we feel like there's nobody